All right, so you handed us this stack of articles all about tobacco, huh? Everything from ancient rituals to modern laws. We've got it all here. Get ready, because today's deep dive is going to take us on a wild ride through the world of tobacco.
Yeah, it's a really long and complicated history full of twists and turns. It's pretty interesting stuff, actually. A lot of people don't know that tobacco story starts way back in 8000 BC.
8,000 BC. Whoa, okay. I'm picturing like woolly mammoths and cavemen. What were people even doing with tobacco back then?
Think more like rituals and ceremonies, not just casual smoking. It was a really important part of Native American cultures. Like, they used it in their religious practices, even in their medicine. It wasn't just a plant to them, it was part of their whole worldview.
Wow, that definitely changes my perspective. I never thought of it like that.
Right.
So how did we get from these sacred rituals in the Americas to tobacco being everywhere in the world?
Well, you've got to think about those European explorers in the 1500s, right? Imagine them showing up in this new world, seeing this interesting plant, and realizing how important it could be. Tobacco quickly became more than just a curiosity. It was something to trade, a cash crop that could build empires and change societies.
That's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. How something that had such a spiritual meaning for one group could end up being a huge moneymaker for someone else. But it seems like it took a really long time for people to realize how bad it was for you.
Yeah, you're right. It's actually a really important part of this whole story.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the 1900s that the really bad health effects of tobacco became super obvious. Like, for centuries, this plant was being traded, grown, and smoked, and people didn't really get how much it was hurting them.
That's wild. I wonder what caused that delay. Was it that science wasn't advanced enough? Or maybe powerful industries didn't want people to know? Or was it both?
It's definitely complicated. It's a mix of different things, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting. But one thing's for sure. We need to understand why it took so long to realize how dangerous tobacco is if we really want to get why it's had such a big impact on people.
That's a really good point. So we've gone from ancient rituals to a global product, and then finally to realizing how dangerous it can be. But what about the science behind it all? Like, why is it so difficult to just quit?
That's where nicotine comes in, and it's pretty powerful stuff. We're not just talking about something that picks you up a little. Nicotine gets to your brain in seconds, literally seconds, and it makes your brain release dopamine, which makes you feel good.
Oh, so it's like instant gratification, huh?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense why it's so hard to stop.
Exactly. But here's the thing, that good feeling doesn't last very long.
Yep.
It disappears really quickly, and then you just want more. You start needing to chase that feeling again and again, and that's how addiction starts to control you.
Wow. It's kind of scary how our brains get tricked into wanting more, even when it's bad for us. And then on top of that, there are all those withdrawal symptoms to deal with.
Yeah, and let's be real, those withdrawal symptoms are no joke. We're talking feeling super irritable, more anxious than usual, and forget about focusing on anything. It's rough.
So basically, you're battling your own brain and body when you try to quit. That makes a lot of sense why so many people struggle to stop.
And we haven't even gotten to the whole list of health risks. I mean, everyone knows that smoking is bad for you, but it's way more serious than that. There are a ton of health problems that it can cause, and some of them might surprise you.
So we know nicotine is really addictive and the health risks are nothing to mess with.
Oh.
But what's being done about all this? It seems like a huge problem to tackle.
Oh, it definitely is a massive challenge. But there have been some big steps forward in controlling tobacco use over the years. It's interesting to see how we've gone from not really knowing the risks to having policies and campaigns that try to protect people from the harm.
Yeah, that's true. So where did this change start? Was it like a turning point?
You could say the Surgeon General's report back in 1964 was a big deal. It was the first time the U.S. government officially said, hey, smoking is seriously bad for you. It was a game changer, for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mhm.
It's like people couldn't ignore it anymore. It was official. So what
Yeah.
happened after that report? Did things actually change?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The report basically led to a bunch of new laws. Like in 1965, the Federal Cigarette Labeling and Advertising Act was put into place, and that's why we have those warning labels on cigarette packs. They're everywhere now, but can you imagine if they weren't there?
It's true. You kind of forget they're even there.
Yeah.
But they do make a difference, I think. But what about young people? They're the ones who are most likely to start smoking, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where things like the Sinar Amendment come in. That was in 1992, and it made it illegal to sell tobacco to minors. That was a huge step in stopping young people from getting hooked.
Makes sense. It seems obvious now, but I bet it wasn't back then. What about more recently? Has there been any big legislation in the 2000s?
Yeah, definitely. In 2009, the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act gave the FDA a lot of power to regulate tobacco products, like everything from making it and advertising it to selling it. They're really focused on protecting kids.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. It sounds like a big win for public health. But laws aren't the only thing, right? What about those anti-smoking ads you see everywhere?
Those campaigns are super important. They're not just about the facts, they're also about fighting back against how the tobacco industry tries to make smoking look cool, especially to young people.
That's true. I've noticed a lot of the ads for young people are really positive now. It's less about scaring you and more about being healthy.
Exactly. It's about giving people the information and support they need to make good choices. And for people who already smoke, there's a whole other side of those campaigns that helps them quit.
Okay, so let's talk about quitting. We all know it's really hard to stop smoking. Where do you even begin?
It's different for everyone. There's no magic solution. But the good news is there are a lot of different things you can try.
Like what? Give us the secrets.
Well, one option is nicotine replacement therapy. Things like patches, gum lozenges. They give you nicotine, but in a controlled way, so you don't have those crazy withdrawal symptoms.
So instead of quitting cold turkey, you're kind of easing your way off nicotine. That makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And don't underestimate how important it is to talk to someone, a therapist, a support group. Sometimes just having someone who understands what you're going through can make all the difference.
Yeah, it's like having your own personal cheering section to get you through the tough times.
Exactly. And some people find medications like bupropion and varenicline really helpful. They help with the cravings and make the whole process less overwhelming.
That's amazing. So it's like you're giving your brain a little extra support to break those bad habits.
Yeah, you could say that. It's all about finding what works best for each person. There's no shame in asking for help or trying different things until you find something that sticks.
It's inspiring to hear there are so many options now. Quitting isn't like a race, it's a journey. Yeah.
You got it. And like any journey, having a map can make a huge difference.
A map? What do you mean?
I mean, having a plan. Set a quit date, figure out what makes you want to smoke, and come up with healthy ways to deal with stress and cravings.
So basically, be prepared and don't beat yourself up if things get tough.
Exactly. It's about being kind to yourself and knowing that setbacks happen.
Yeah, it really sounds like quitting takes a lot of self-awareness, support, and a solid plan.
Yeah.
But hey, we've come a long way from those ancient tobacco rituals, right?
We definitely have. It's pretty amazing how much our understanding of tobacco has changed over time, from these sacred ceremonies to a global product. And now we're finally realizing what a huge public health problem it is.
It makes you think about the impact tobacco has had on us,
Yeah.
on our history.
And on that note, here's something to think about as we wrap up today's deep dive. We talked about how people's views on tobacco have changed, but what's still making people use it today? What about society, the economy, culture? How are those things playing a role?
That's a great question. It's like we've gone through all these layers of history, science, and policies, but there's still more to the story, isn't there?
Exactly. If we can figure out why people are still using tobacco, then we can start to create a healthier future for everyone.
This deep dive has been really interesting. I had no idea there was so much to learn about tobacco.
It just goes to show that even the things we think we know can have these really complex stories behind them.
That's a great way to put it.
Mm.
Well, on that note, we'll leave you with that thought-provoking question to ponder. Join us next time for another deep dive into a new topic. Until then, stay curious.